Art and music are a means for an individual to express their ideas with the world. As of late, art has been infiltrated by opportunists that wish to subvert the original expression of the artist and replace their ideas with sterilized, mainstream-approved propaganda for the masses. The media industrial complex has used the long effective strategy of creating a false consensus across the entertainment world to convince the population that a vocal minority represents a larger amount of people than they actually do. Take, for example, the fact that comedians, these exceptional and unique individuals, these charismatic individuals that run late-night television, all work for the same networks, have the same exact hack political talking points, and rehash the same tired format that worked for less intellectually dishonest hosts in the past. The fact that there is so little, if any, variability between these late-night hosts is one of the many examples that the media attempts to portray the world differently than it actually is. Another example of the entertainment industry attempting to make all artists say the same thing and pretend to have the same political views is Kanye West coming out as a based MAGApeed and getting the talk from someone calling himself John Legend. Policing art and the artist is certainly nothing new, but it is something that has become more frequent and less frowned upon by people who are the most vocal. Deplatforming or even throttling traffic has been a more and more appealing idea to those who cannot handle others having different ideas than their own. What they tell themselves is that they are the good ones, the heroes, and that means that anyone that opposes them is evil and villains. Their perspective of the world is so simple that there are only two sides. They have made their own beliefs so personal to them that they take disagreeing with them as a personal insult. It is in this false dichotomy that people like this live. The reason why any of this is relevant is that Spotify, the music subscription service, has updated its policy on hate conduct and hateful content. This is in the wake of outrage mobs on Twitter and Facebook demanding that R. Kelly be removed from the mainstream media after accusations about his treatment towards young women of color came through. In response, R. Kelly has been removed from promotional playlists, although they agreed to allow his music to still be found in the library if you search for it specifically. So that we can get a good idea of what is included in this new policy, let's read through maybe the first 3 paragraphs, but if you're interested, a link is in the description. Spotify is a platform for artistic expression, exploration, and inspiration. We believe in openness, diversity, tolerance, and respect, and we want to promote those values through music and the creative arts. This policy is designed to do that, consistent with our distinct roles in music and media, from distribution to promotion to co-creation. That's why we do not permit hate content on Spotify and remove it whenever we find it. What do we consider hate content? Hate content is content that expressly and principally promotes, advocates, or incites hatred or violence against a group or individual based on characteristics including race, religion, gender identity, sex, ethnicity, nationality, sexual orientation, veteran status, or disability. At the same time, however, it's important to remember that cultural standards and sensitivities vary widely. That means that there will always be content that is acceptable in some circumstances, but is offensive in others, and we will always look at the entire context. Who would be willing to help Spotify police their content but the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, and an organization called Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation? So it's the ADL for the LGBT. These are deeply discredited organizations that certainly should not be in any place of determining what is considered hateful. Every time there is a decent service that ends up positioning itself as the only provider, be it Comcast, Google, Netflix, YouTube, the list goes on, they always make controversial changes after they have set themselves up as a monopoly. We know that these radical turns never yield a monetary benefit for these companies. They have other intentions, social engineering. These large companies have their own image of the future of society and humanity. The reason I am even talking about this at all is that we are experiencing more and more companies caving into the demands of a vocal minority to boycott certain people when they step out of line. Restrictions for artists are never a good thing. They hinder true expression. There will be the inevitable comment about how companies have the right to do as they like, which of course I agree with. What I disagree with is a company caving into the demands of an organized social media outrage cult that seeks to destroy people based on out-of-context wrongthink. This is something that will not end well. The rules only become more restrictive, not less. This was originally where the video was intended to conclude, but the story evolved a little more over the past few days. Following the announcement that R. Kelly would no longer be promoted by playlists, essentially being throttled by Spotify directly, there was a call from a group that called themselves Ultraviolet to deplatform more artists. The letter starts simply enough with a little bit of flattery to try to butter up the CEO, but a little bit later in the letter, they demand that the following artists be removed from Spotify as well, or removed from the promotional playlists. They have Chris Brown, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nelly, Eminem, Don Henley of the Eagles, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, Tekashi 6ix9ine, and Ted Nugent. What did these men do, you might ask? Well, they were accused of something. They weren't charged with anything, nothing has been proven, they were just accused. This reminds me of a little place called Salem. But as we know, anyone who has ever made an accusation ever has always been very, very honest. And then we had another update. Since this letter has been made public for people to read, Spotify has began to change their music catalog. This time, instead of getting help from the SPLC, they are getting help from the BPmJ, the Federal Department for Media Harmful to Young People. This is from their support account on Twitter. Dago writes, Spotify, why would you guys remove Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse? To which they responded, hey, content linked by the BPjM is proactively removed from our service. We look at other content when it's flagged and raise it with the right team. We'll be here if you need us for anything else. Okay, that person sounded very helpful. So with R. Kelly, his music was not removed from Spotify, but instead throttled and removed from promotional playlists. A metal band like Cannibal Corpse, who hasn't been at the center of any sort of Me Too controversy, has had their music removed entirely. How much longer will it be before certain people aren't allowed to share their art or even make money making art due to arbitrary definitions of what is considered taboo? Well, that time might already be here. True art is meant to push boundaries. People should not be silenced for being offensive. It used to be the responsibility of organizations like the ACLU to protect people's right to express themselves, but the ACLU has taken a heel turn recently and refused to defend the rights of others that are found so provocative. When was the last time any of these organizations used their resources to allow controversial figures the ability to express themselves in an open environment? In some cases, the speakers are forced to pay out of pocket to protect themselves from mask-wearing villains that pretend to be the good guys. These organizations do not have our best intentions at heart. They do not care about our civil liberties, defamation, poverty, or anything else that they put in their names. Groups like these give themselves false titles with the implication that they are not only virtuous, but also capable of doing the job that they claim. They will claim to champion groups of people that cannot speak for themselves, claiming themselves to be the righteous, and by extension, their opposition to be evil. Don't trust them, or anyone for that matter. Look for yourself and determine for yourself what is real for you.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.